Hello again everyone, welcome back to another episode of Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. My name is Mars, and today we're going to be doing, that's right, the complete guide for Jariah. And I think a lot of you have been anticipating this or even looking forward to this. And so today we're going to deliver, and I'm excited about it because Jariah is one of those units where I really like the sprite. And on release I was kind of bummed out about his kit because he was somebody who was very hard to use. He had no chaining friends, like he just had a lot of problems and not a lot of upswing to using him. But now, today things are different, and so this guy is going to go over how to use him, what he can do for you, how to do some builds for him, and kind of an overall analysis of whether or not the investment is worth it for you. So, the first thing we want to focus on are Jiraiya's roles. Now, the most obvious one, of course, is that he is a champion chainer, and what I mean by that is that he has a number of chaining families that he can choose from. Very flexible in that regard. He can chain with 3 different primary families, and some of which are very, very big, and that's very handy. One of the other things that he can do is he can be your AoE Mirage spam robot. So he's basically Sarah, but with 7-star stats. And while he's applying Mirage to the party, he can also add elemental resistance, which is handy. And he can also imperil Thunder, Fire, and Dark by 90% for all enemies. So that's a handy bit of utility right there that you can rely on if you happen to need it. Now, one of his main focuses is as a People Eater. He's got, I think, 125% Man-Eater in his kit, which makes him one of the best units in the game for taking down human targets. And that's even stacked up against some of our meta damage dealers that we have right now, because he just does phenomenal damage against human targets. So that's great. And then, of course, the last role that he can fill is Toad Bleps. He's got all of the bleps. Nobody else has any bleps except for Chow, but his bleps are auto attacks, so they're not that strong. When it comes to bleps, Jariah is the blepping king. So, as far as chaining goes, let's talk a little bit about that. He's got 3 families that he is now a part of. The smallest one, of course, is the Kingsglaive family, and as you will notice, it's pretty small, and most of them are limited time units. However, that being said, fire is a commonly favored element. Lots of enemies are susceptible to it, and these Kingsglaive chainers in the party, gosh, I can't say Kingsglaive chainers. The Kingsglaive chainers, or the KG chainers, let's just say that, they do quite a bit of damage. They do pretty well. Especially Yoon. Yoon is probably one of the best. Nyx is another unit who's really good for it because he brings utility with his AoE limit burst fill plus suicide combo plate. So he's got some good stuff going for him. Now, the one that you may be a little bit more familiar with and a little more interested in using is the Octaslash chaining family, which is named after Sephiroth's Octaslash chaining ability, and this is Sephiroth's only AoE chaining ability as well, so he's actually really nice with people who have Octaslash abilities that chain AoE. So Roberta is probably one of the best options because hers is also AoE and she can imperil Thunder as well. So there are a ton of options out there. If you're looking for a Thunder chainer, Jiraiya's got you covered. We've got 4-star and 5-star base units that have you covered. It really is one of the larger chain families that often go forgotten, and it does self-capping damage, so it does better than perhaps a standard damage distribution chain. Really, really nice. Lots of options there, and it's especially nice having someone like Gouken just in case you need a 4-star base option as well. So this unfortunately though, as far as Jiraiya's skill is going to go, this chaining family is going to be his weakest one, however it is AoE. His fire one is his strongest one that he has up all of the time, but his strongest ability is Shadow Dragon Roar, which is a dark Divine Ruination chaining skill. And as you can see, there are more Divine Ruination chainers than I can actually fit on a slide. Like, it stopped letting me paste images in there because there were so freaking many of them. So, if it comes to flexibility of, can he chain with families? Does he have a place to fit in? Absolutely. His most powerful chaining ability. It is dark damage, which we all know is one of the more commonly resisted elements, which is unfortunate. But light is also just as frequently resisted in most cases, and then it's kind of a smattering across the board, so it's really going to depend. That being said, Jariah is not locked to any of these elements, as in he can just use different chaining families if he needs to. So like, oh, if I want to take him against Venomous Vines. Okay, I don't have to use his Divine Ruination skill. It's dark. It's not going to do any damage to the boss. Instead, I can use his Octaslash or his Kingsglaive one. So that's one of the things that makes him real nice, is that you can use a single build and you can get all of these chain families just for you. Now, one of the common questions I get about Jiraiya is how exactly do you use him? His enhancements gave him a lot of help, because before you could basically only do his good abilities if you used his Limit Burst, but that is no longer the case. If you use Kuji Seal +2, it enables you to unlock Purgatory Fire Slash +2 or Thunderstrike Stance +2, which are identical to the true versions that come after his Limit Burst. They do the same chain frames, they do the same damage, and this was a really important change because now it means that he can always be chaining with a friend that's not himself. So, now, you will notice in this image that Shadow Dragon Roar is only unlocked with his Limit Burst. That's a little bit unfortunate, but it's because it is that much stronger as a single target chaining ability. So your standard rotation is going to be, depending on who your chaining partner is, what you're up against, you're going to use Kuji Seal +2. This gives him some evasion, a few stacks of it, and it gives him 150% attack magic buff, and it also unlocks Purgatory Fire Slash +2 and Thunderstrike Stance +2. So you use those abilities until it's turn 4, and that's when you can pop your Limit Burst, or you can use Kuji Seal +2 again, and continue to use Fire or Thunder, or if you're looking to use Dark instead, this is when you can swap over to doing Dark chaining. And in most fights, you're not necessarily going to want to swap elements, but it is very handy to have a chaining option that you can use up until you unlock his dark damage ability. And, you know, most fights don't really favor element swapping on the fly like that. However, it is worth noting that Jariah and Sephiroth are probably like BFFs. Like BFFFFs. Like best friends forever, 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 forever. Because they can both do this sort of element swapping thing. So if you want to do Octaslash chaining with the Thunder ability on Jariah, you can do that. And if you don't want to be doing Thunder chaining right off of, like you don't want Sephiroth to have a Thunder weapon, that's fine. Give him a Dark weapon, and then as soon as Jiraiya is ready to do Shadow Dragon Roar, that's when both Jiraiya and Sephiroth can jump over to Shadow Dragon Roar, or the Divine Ruination skills, and start doing some of that. And that's one of the things that's really, really nice about Sephiroth combining with Jiraiya. You can also do a similar thing with Yoon and Jiraiya. Yoon also has the Kingsglaive as well as Octaslash chaining frames, and so does Lucius. So between those three units, Lucius, Yoon, and Sephiroth, the three of them can chain with two of these families, and they can swap on the fly. So if you happen to want to, you know, do Fire or Thunder to begin with, and then move into something else later, or in the case of Sephiroth, move into Dark, you can totally do that. And it's honestly not that difficult of a rotation to keep up, as long as you've got LB fill rate buff on your party. It is very easy, although if you're running two Jariahs, it is really handy to have an Entruster on your party, just in case you need to help maintain that Limit Burst uptime, because especially if you're using Shadow Dragon Roar, you're going to want that every 3 turns so that you can keep that skill unlocked. So that's about it as far as how to use him and what his rotation looks like. Let's take a quick look at some of his builds. Now, this is the most common question that I get. How do you actually even build Jariah? Now, I didn't sit there and plug into the calculator, you know, to calculate best hybrid build, because holy cow, that would take forever. The calculator takes ages to calculate hybrid builds, so, you know, I kind of just spitballed one that I would consider doing if I had all the STMRs I could get my hands on, right? You can, I mean, he is a dual wielder, and he has innate true dual wield, so you want to build him as such. So, one of the creative builds that we're featuring here is one that uses Equip Rod. This is something that you can choose to do if you are way overcapped on attack, and you're looking for additional ways to squeeze in more magic, because his attacks scale off of both attack and magic. This is not a build I'm personally going to run with, but I think this is one that is closer to the upper end of the power scale. It is a little crazy to have 1700, almost 1800 attack with 1500 magic. That's very good. But this is probably not the sort of build that people are going to go for. This is just there in case you want to try and build a equip rod build, and it may be best in slot for some people. One of the more practical builds that I think I would recommend, this is more the direction that I go with my Jariah builds. I equip double katanas. The alternative that you can do is that you can use a katana and like Aigon arm, or you can use another fist weapon. You can use Malphase's fist weapon. I just try to get Jiraiya's attack as high as possible, because the more you can build into a single stat, the more you can get exponential returns on that. Other than that, you're looking at mostly either true dual wield stuff or hybrid gear, like Adventurer 5. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about it. Like, I just try to build up his attack, because he's kind of like building any other hybrid damage dealer, except he tends to favor attack far more than magic, just because his passives and the equipment options that he has are better for that. Now, if you were going to go a little bit more budget on this, this is another build that only has TMRs, no STMRs. This is a pretty good build as well. This also uses Sasuke's katana as well as Malphase's TMR, and as you can see, you can get very high stats with this as well. 1800 closer to 1900 attack with over 1200 magic is quite good for a dual wield hybrid damage dealer, and this is without STMRs, so this is a good way to get your damage up. Now, one other thing about builds is I would definitely recommend keeping his headband on. If you don't have his headband on, using his limit burst will not unlock the Octaslash or Kingsglaive frame abilities, and it also will not unlock Shadow Dragon Roar. So you basically lose out on all of his best abilities with the best uptime if you do not equip his headband. And it also gives you 30% attack and magic, so you know, contributes to his stats, very handy for a hybrid damage dealer, unlocks his most powerful abilities. You're pretty much going to be wanting to use this. That's about it for builds. Now, as far as a quick analysis of, is Jariah worth it? This is going to be, you know, a hard maybe, depending on who you are and what you value in your units. Jiraiya's definitely got some pros going for him in that he's a hybrid damage dealer with multiple chaining families, multiple elemental options. He is very flexible, very fun to use. He's got great utility with AoE Mirage. This is something that I used to trivialize Alfurg, the most recent 10-man trial. And I'm telling you, to take 0 physical damage on a party, it's amazing. Plus the elemental resistance, plus the imperils, like he's got a lot more to bring to the table. But that being said, they do come at the cost of fairly expensive enhancements. Now, they're not the most expensive enhancements that we've had, but if you're going for them, they are going to be a little bit more on the expensive end. You can select to enhance based on what you want to use them for. If you want to use them for damage, go ahead and enhance Kuji Seal +2 and his attack stat passives. And if you want to use them for support, you can enhance his respective support abilities. So totally up to you. I broke the bank and just went for everything because, like I said, I really like his sprite. Like, I mained Ninja in FF14, so to see a straight up Ninja in the game who was a 5-star base and who could do a little damage, like, I was excited on his release. But yeah, now that he's actually good, I'm excited about his enhancements. Now, as far as how much you can level him, or how much you should, it's nice to note that level 100, he can still do his Octaslash and Kingsglaive frame chaining, because Kuji Seal is a 6-star ability, if I recall correctly, and so he can still do your Kingsglaive and Octaslash, even if you don't have him at 7-star. So that's handy. He's not going to be your best damage dealer at that tier, obviously, because he's still a 6-star, but that is still an option if you want him for that. 105 is when he unlocks the remainder of his support abilities, so that's when you may get some additional benefit if you're looking to use him as your Mirage guy or as your Elemental Resistance or Imperil guy. He's got you covered at 105, and then if you're looking to maximize his damage output, level 120 gives you his best attack and magic true dual wield passives. So kind of decide how you want to use him and then level him accordingly. Now, as far as his limit burst level, you don't have to level it at all, which is super, super nice. There are a lot of damage dealers, or a lot of people where maybe you're like, I feel like I need to enhance or level their limit burst, but not in this case. With Jariah, you don't have to do it. I got him to level 25, I think, just because I enjoy using him, and blepping people with a giant magical toad is very, very fun, and it just does more damage. But I probably wouldn't recommend it. Just because I do it doesn't mean you should either. Now, one of the things that is kind of a little bit of a yellow zone on Jariah are his gear requirements. That being said, he has a lot of options that he can make do with, like Adventurer 5 is a freebie, Sasuke's Katana is a freebie. Like there's a lot of good stuff out there. Aigayon's arm is a freebie, he can use that as well. There's a lot of things out there that you can use that just come with playing the game that'll really help him out with his stats and with building him up as a damage dealer. But if you want to go for BIS, and I suppose that, you know, best in slot, this is going to go for any unit, he is a little bit trickier because he is a hybrid damage dealer. But if you kind of treat him a little bit more like a physical damage dealer who prefers attack, it may be a little bit easier to wrap your head around gearing your own. Now, as far as the breadth of use goes, it is pretty wide, and I put it at wide because he is able to chain with 3 different families in 3 different elements, and he is a hybrid damage dealer, which means he's going to be able to damage bosses or enemies that are resistant to magic or resistant to physical damage. He's able to damage any of them. And with his elemental flexibility, it's going to make it so that he's going to be able to dish out some decent damage in almost any fight. And speaking of his damage, he is obviously not the best in the game. Even after his enhancements, his rotation kind of puts him on par with Hyo, which is very respectable damage. We haven't received any fights where Hyo's damage level can't beat them, and that's going to continue to be true. But it's also important to keep in mind that Jiraiya's skill and expertise is in slaying human targets. So guess who we have coming up? We have Gilgamesh Kai, and who better to slay him with than Jariah? Jariah is the ultimate people leader, and so he's someone that you can definitely consider. I know he's somebody that I'm thinking of. I might pair him with Sephiroth and do some absolutely ugly damage to that boss. But, you know, that's just me, that's just something I'm thinking about. So, with that being said, I think overall Jariah is somebody that you can get a lot of use out of. It's totally up to you to determine whether or not it is worth it. He definitely holds his own at this point and can provide a lot of use to your party, and with some clever team strategizing, you can get a ton of value out of him. But also, he's a safe pass if you're strung for resources and you don't have all the crysts or the gil that you need. You can easily pass up on him. Like, if you don't care about Jariah, you don't want Jariah, you're not interested in him, totally fine. I think he's going to shine best against Gilgamesh, and then after that, I don't know if he'll shine again. We'll find out. If there are more peoples that come out for him to eat, then he will eat them, but otherwise, you know, I don't think he's going to see a whole lot of meta play, which is totally fine. That's the nature of the game. So, you let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of Enhanced Jariah? Is he someone that you've used yourself? Is he someone that you're interested in using? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will see everybody in the next video.